Some things take root before we even know what they are, not because we asked for them, but because life just put them there. I was 7. My mother was doing what she could, trying to build a better life for 3 kids. I was the firstborn with a different father. She was trying to create love, but inside that house, something stayed cold. My stepfather had been around since I was 3, but I was never really there to him. Not once did he call me my name. Not once did he say, "Daughter." I lived in his house, but I was not in his heart. One night, I heard my mother crying, begging him to love me, asking him why he couldn't treat me like one of his own. I remember pressing my ear to the wall, waiting for an answer. All I heard was silence, and that was the night I learned something I could not unlearn. You can be right there, alive, present, hoping, and still feel completely invisible. Maybe you have felt that too. Not damaged on the outside, but unseen on the inside. Not hated, just not loved. And that does something to a person. You start shrinking yourself. You stop asking for too much. You become careful, not because you're weak, but because you've learned early that being too visible can cost you. As I got older, I started closing doors. I stopped reaching out. I stopped expecting anything. The only peace I knew was outside. Under trees in the backyard, I would sit for hours, lost in my own thoughts. I did not talk to anyone about it. No big moment, no healing breakthrough, but something inside me knew I was different, not better. Even when I did not have the words, I knew I was more than the way I was being treated. There were times I thought about running away, not to escape, but just to breathe, to go where I didn't have to fold myself in half just to be seen. And even when I felt completely alone, something in me kept whispering, "This isn't all there is." Have you ever felt that? Like you were in a room, but nobody looked at you. Like your needs were too loud, so you learned how to mute them. Like your presence was a burden, so you made yourself small. If so, you're not alone, and listen to me closely. What they didn't give you doesn't define you. What they failed to see in you doesn't erase who you are. Even if no one ever told you, you were chosen. Even if no voice from heaven ever broke the silence, there's something in you that they could never touch. And it's still there, still alive, still sacred. By the time I hit my teens, I was already tired, carrying things I could not name, trying to survive silence. I did not talk about it, I just carried it. But I never stopped believing I was meant for more. Not because anyone told me, not because I had proof, but because something deep inside would not let me give up on myself. And that steady, stubborn belief, that's where God was. Not in the sermons, not in the voices I never heard, but in that quiet, untouchable part of me that said, "Don't quit. Don't disappear. You matter." Now, looking back, I understand. The silence did not mean I was unworthy. The rejection did not make me less. They did not choose me, but I kept choosing me. And maybe that's where the sacred lives. Not as someone else saying you matter, but in knowing, you knowing. So if you have ever felt invisible, if no one ever called you by your name, if your childhood taught you to stay small, let me say this loud and clear. You are not invisible. You never were. You are not broken. You were becoming.